Montana, nicknamed Big Sky Country for its expansive views, is a state rich in natural beauty, diverse ecosystems, and a storied history. Located in the western United States, it is the fourth largest state by area, yet one of the least densely populated. The name Montana comes from the Spanish word Montana, which means mountain or, more broadly, mountainous country. For thousands of years, Montana was inhabited by various indigenous peoples. The tribes encountered by various Europeans and settlers included the Crow, Cheyenne, Blackfeet, Assiniboine, Gros Ventres, Kootenai, Salish, Pend and Kalispel. As part of the Missouri River watershed, all of the land in Montana east of the Continental Divide was part of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, except for a tiny portion in the northeast that is part of the Hudson Bay drainage. Subsequent to, and particularly in the decades following the Lewis and Clark expedition, European, Canadian, and American traders operated a fur trade, trading with indigenous peoples in both eastern and western portions of the area. The trading post Fort Raymond was constructed in Crow Indian country in 1807. The first permanent settlement by Euro-Americans in what is now Montana was St. Mary's, established in 1841 near present-day Stevensville. In 1847, Fort Benton was built as the uppermost fur trading post on the Missouri River. In the 1850s, settlers began moving into the Beaverhead and Big Hole valleys from the Oregon Trail and into the Clark's Fork Valley. The first gold discovered in Montana was at Gold Creek near present-day Garrison in 1852. The gold rush in the region commenced in earnest starting in 1862. A series of major mineral discoveries in the western part of the state found gold, silver, copper, lead, and coal, and later oil, which attracted tens of thousands of miners to the area. Montana Territory became a territory of the United States on May 26, 1864. The first territorial capital was located at Bannock. Sidney Edgerton served as the first territorial governor. The capital moved to Virginia City in 1865 and to Helena in 1875. In 1869 and 1870 respectively, the Cook-Folsom-Peterson and the Washburn-Langford-Doane expeditions were launched from Helena into the upper Yellowstone region. The extraordinary discoveries and reports from these expeditions led to the creation of Yellowstone National Park in 1872. The first U.S. Army post established in Montana was Camp Cook in 1866. Pressure over land ownership and control increased due to discoveries of gold in various parts of Montana and surrounding states. Major battles occurred in Montana during Red Cloud's War, the Great Sioux War of 1876, and the Nez Perce War, and in conflicts with the Piegan Blackfeet. The most notable were the Marias Massacre, 1870, Battle of the Little Bighorn, 1876, Battle of the Big Hole, 1877, and Battle of Bear Paw, 1877. The last recorded conflict in Montana between the U.S. Army and Native Americans occurred in 1887, during the Battle of Crow Agency in the Bighorn Country. Cattle ranching has been central to Montana's history and economy. The Grand Cours Ranch National Historic Site in Deer Lodge is maintained today as a link to the ranching style of the late 19th century. Congress did not approve Montana's statehood until February 1889, and President Grover Cleveland signed an omnibus bill granting statehood to Montana. In July 1889, Montanans convened their third constitutional convention and produced a constitution accepted by the people and the federal government. On November 8, 1889, President Benjamin Harrison proclaimed Montana the Union's 41st state. The first state governor was Joseph K. Toole. In the 1880s, Helena, the state capital, had more millionaires per capita than any other United States city. In 1917-1918, due to a miscalculation of Montana's population, about 40,000 Montanans, 10% of the state's population, volunteered or were drafted into the armed forces. Around 1,500 Montanans died as a result of the war, and 2,437 were wounded, also higher than any other state on a per capita basis. Montana's Remount Station in Miles City provided 10,000 cavalry horses for the war, more than any other army post in the country. The war created a boom for Montana mining, lumber, and farming interests, as demand for war materials and food increased. An economic depression began in Montana after World War I, and lasted through the Great Depression until the beginning of World War II. This caused great hardship for farmers, ranchers, and miners. By the time the U.S. entered World War II on December 8, 1941, many Montanans had enlisted in the military to escape the poor national economy of the previous decade. More than 57,000 joined up before the war ended. These numbers constituted about 10% of the state's population, and Montana again contributed one of the highest numbers of soldiers per capita of any state. Many Native Americans were among those who served, including soldiers from the Crow Nation who became code talkers. At least 1,500 Montanans died in the war. Montana eventually became home to the largest ICBM field in the U.S., covering 23,500 square miles, 61,000 kilometers square. Montana is one of the 8 mountain states, located in the north of the region known as the Western United States. It borders North Dakota and South Dakota to the east. Wyoming is to the south, Idaho is to the west and southwest, and the Canadian provinces of British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan are to the north, making it the only state to border 3 Canadian provinces. Montana has an area of 147,040 square miles, 380,800 square kilometers. It is the 4th largest state in the United States after Alaska, Texas, and California. It is the largest landlocked state. Its capital is Helena, while the most populous city is Billings. The western half of the state contains numerous mountain ranges, including the Rocky Mountains, while the eastern half is characterized by western prairie terrain and badlands, with smaller mountain ranges found throughout the state. Montana has some 3,000 named lakes and reservoirs, including Flathead Lake, the largest natural freshwater lake in the western United States. Montana contains Glacier National Park, the crown of the continent, and parts of Yellowstone National Park, Little Bighorn National Monument, Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area, and Big Hole National Battlefield. The CSKT Bison Range is managed by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, and the American Prairie is owned and operated by a nonprofit organization. Elevations range from under 2,000 feet, 610 meters, to nearly 13,000 feet, 4,000 meters, above sea level. The western half is mountainous, interrupted by numerous large valleys. Eastern Montana comprises plains and badlands, broken by hills and isolated mountain ranges, and has a semi-arid continental climate. Average annual precipitation is 15 inches, 380 millimeters. Montana has 56 counties. Montana has 1 city, Billings, with a population over 100,000, and 3 cities with populations over 50,000. Missoula, Great Falls, and Bozeman. The United States Census Bureau states that the population of Montana was 1,132,812 on July 1, 2023. According to the 2020 census, 88.9% of the population was white, 87.8% non-Hispanic white, 6.7% American Indian and Alaska Native, 4.1% Hispanics and Latinos of any race, 0.9% Asian, 0.6% Black or African American, 0.1% Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, and 2.8% from 2 or more races. The largest European ancestry groups in Montana as of 2010 were German, 27.0%, Irish, 14.8%, English, 12.6%, Norwegian, 10.9%, French, 4.7%, and Italian, 3.4%. Montana has a larger Native American population, both numerically and as a percentage, who are 6.5% of the state's population, the 6th highest percentage of all 50 states. Native Americans constitute a majority in 3: Bighorn, Glacier, and Roosevelt. About 66,000 people of Native American heritage live in Montana. Multiple treaties and federal legislation, including the Indian Appropriations Act, 1851, the Dawes Act, 1887, and the Indian Reorganization Act, 1934, enabled the creation of 7 Indian reservations, encompassing 11 federally recognized tribal nations, in Montana. A 12th nation, the Little Shell Tribe of Chippewa Indians of Great Falls, was recognized by the federal government in 2020. English is the official language in the state of Montana. According to the 2000 census, 94.8% of the population aged 5 and older speak English at home. 1.4% of the population speak Spanish. 1.7% of the state population speaks an Indo-European language. 1.1% speak a Native American language. 0.4% speak an Asian or Pacific Islander language. By the Public Religion Research Institute's 2022 survey, Christianity grew to 62% of the population altogether, with 43% Protestant, 17% Catholic, and 2% Restorationist through Mormonism. 34% of the population were irreligious. New Age spirituality was 2% of the population, Judaism 1%, and Buddhism 1%. Other faiths accounted for 2% of the state's population. As of 2022, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis estimated Montana's gross domestic product was $67.072 billion, 47th in the nation, and per capita personal income was $60,984, 28th in the nation. Total employment is 371,239. Its economy is primarily based on agriculture, including ranching and cereal grain farming. Other significant economic resources include oil, gas, coal, mining, and lumber. The healthcare, service, defense, and government sectors are also significant to the state's economy. Montana's fastest-growing sector is tourism, with 12.6 million tourists, as of 2019, visiting the state each year. Montana is a relative hub of beer microbrewing. Significant industries exist for lumber and mineral extraction. The state's resources include gold, coal, silver, talc, and vermiculite. Ecotaxes on resource extraction are numerous. Tourism is also important to the economy, with more than 10 million visitors a year to Glacier National Park, Flathead Lake, the Missouri River headwaters, the site of the Battle of Little Bighorn, and 3 of the 5 entrances to Yellowstone National Park. As of August 2021, the state's unemployment rate is 3.5%. Montana provides year-round outdoor recreation opportunities for residents and visitors. Hiking, fishing, hunting, watercraft, recreation, camping, golf, cycling, horseback riding, and skiing are popular activities. Montana has been a destination for its world-class trout fisheries since the 1930s. Both downhill skiing and cross-country skiing are popular in Montana, and there are 15 developed downhill ski areas open to the public. Snowmobiling is popular in Montana, which boasts over 4,000 miles of trails and frozen lakes available in winter. Montana is ranked as the least obese state in the U.S., at 19.6%, according to the 2014 Gallup poll. Today, the BNSF Railway is the state's largest railroad. In addition, Amtrak's Empire Builder train runs through the north of the state. Intercity bus service in Montana is provided by Jefferson Lines and Express Aero. Bozeman-Yellowstone International Airport is the busiest airport in the state of Montana. Montana's interstate highways total 1,198 miles, 1,928 kilometers. The first constitution was drafted by a constitutional convention in 1889, in preparation for statehood. In 1914, Montana granted women the vote. In 1916, Montana became the first state to elect a woman, progressive Republican Jeanette Rankin, to Congress. It is one of 5 states to have no sales tax. The Montana legislature is bicameral and consists of the 50-member Montana Senate and the 100-member Montana House of Representatives. Through the mid-20th century, the state had a tradition of sending the liberals to Washington and the conservatives to Helena. Montana has voted for the Republican nominee in all but 2 presidential elections since 1952. The state last supported a Democrat for president in 1992, when Bill Clinton won a plurality victory. However, since 1889 the state has voted for Democratic governors 60% of the time, and Republican governors 40% of the time. So that was State of Montana for you. In next video we will see another state of USA.